And we're back, and we just finished watching Tim Burton's 1999's Sleepy Hallow, a story based on the Wahington Irving story of the Legend of Sleepy Hallow. This reiteration tells the story of Ichabod Crane, a New York City constable, played by Johnny Depp, who goes to the Hudson town of Sleepy Hallow to investigate a series of decapitations, and is tasked with using his science to solve the case.
Yeah, he's disgusted by the current investigative methods of the police force, where it's pretty much just, oh, he was in the river? Well, then he drowned.
And that is the cause of death.
That's the cause of death. And even when he's pleading his case to the judge, who is in a great cameo by Christopher Lee. Always wonderful to see Christopher Lee, the late, great Christopher Lee. Even when he's pleading his case about how the methods of the police are just like medieval, there's a guy literally in some sort of like Iron Maiden looking-ish cage. And he's just sort of like hanging out in the background listening to this guy.
I'm pretty sure he was smiling, actually.
Yeah. He was like this full body handcuff. So, the Christopher Lee basically says, well, we're tired of listening to you, so either you could spend the night in jail or you can go solve a mystery using all your scientific rigmarole. And, in this small town, 2 days journey to upstate New York.
Which, yeah,
that's baffling now.
Yes.
Probably get to Sleepy Hallow in like an hour if you take the train.
Yes.
But back then, 2 days journey.
2 days journey.
And he's got to solve the mystery of several people getting decapitated.
Impressions, Olivia G. What did you think of this movie?
I thought it was good.
What did you think was good about it?
I liked how the characters were dressed and how they shot the scenes.
Very good. Yeah, I
yes,
think, for
beautiful.
a movie that's from 1999, the art direction in this is flawless. This whole movie is a mood, and it's perfect for Halloween. It's perfect for a pretty broad audience. There isn't gore. There isn't really violence.
Well, I mean, there's violence, but it's not. The violence that you see is a bit cartoony. I mean, the Headless Horseman obviously is chopping off heads. That's what Headless Horsemen do. And when he does it, there's no geysers of blood or anything. It's it's like almost like he's got a lightsaber. Basically, it's just cutting. There's no blood at all.
Yeah.
And the head just pops off like a champagne cork to almost comedic effect.
Yes.
But everything is just gorgeous as far as the scenery goes. It paints like a very spooky image. Everything, there's always mist. Everything's overcast. I don't think Sleepy Hallow has a single sunny day.
No. It's a very interesting palette. I feel like one of the marks of a Tim Burton movie is the look of the movie. Tim Burton movies definitely have a specific aesthetic. This movie is like that times 5.
But it's not that over the top Tim Burton thing. This isn't like Pee-wee or Beetlejuice. He's definitely settled into a period piece. The costumes are period accurate, as far as to my knowledge.
Yes.
Nobody's wearing unnecessary eyeliner or anything like that.
Well, I mean in the sense like something like this I would put against like Big Fish, the aesthetic of that.
Yes, it's a more grounded take of Tim Burton style.
Yes, it's not fantastical, although there are fantastical elements in this movie. But again, I think this is one of his more beautiful movies.
Yes.
There is a certain Tim Burton aesthetic, but I think this one, it's seeped in like American Gothic. And just his use of color, the scenery, the set designs, the costumes that like Olive mentioned, I think all of it comes together really flawlessly in this film. Yeah. I mean, even if you don't like the movie itself, which I can't imagine because it's pretty much a straight story. There's no filler. There's no filler in here. It's a fun story from point A to point B to the end. You're taken on this magnificent journey, and it's a straight script. I mean, you find out why these things are happening.
It was a nice adaptation
of the original,
which is a short story. I mean, in the original, Ichabod is just a teacher,
right,
who comes into town, and he's almost like a grifter. In the original story, he's clearly there to woo Katrina Van Tassel or weasel his way into high society, and eventually he gets scared off by the townspeople or Brom Bones,
right?
Or maybe it was really the Headless Horseman.
Yes, we never know. We never find out. Anyway.
In this one, they took the bones of that and then they
fleshed it out a little bit more.
Turned it into a murder mystery. They definitely made it more interesting with him being a man of science constable.
But with roots in the supernatural, kind of.
He definitely had the supernatural touched his past.
Yes, and I thought those pieces also, not a lot of focus, but very lovelily. Is that even a word? Lovingly interwoven into the story. So you get a sense of who Ichabod is.
Yeah.
Acted magnificently by Johnny Depp.
He definitely, the thing that I enjoyed about it was he wasn't a standard hero.
Yes.
He was scared. He was...
Yes.
There are several points where, they're telling him the legend of the horseman, and his hands are trembling.
Yes.
And he's really trying to maintain this cool,
stoic,
demeanor.
Response. Yeah.
It's so funny when his demeanor breaks.
Yes.
And he's really trying.
Gee, what about you? What did you think about the film?
I like this movie, even though I would have preferred we watched Reverend instead. Well,
maybe we'll get to it. What did you like about this movie?
I like the mystery.
You like the mystery. Did you have a favorite character in this?
No.
Okay, fair enough.
You're into mysteries, right? You like mystery stories.
Yep.
What about you, Olive? Did you have a favorite character in this? Was there somebody in the story that you really, really liked?
No.
No. Okay, fair enough. How about the depictions of the horsemen? Was that scary to you?
It wasn't that scary, but it kind of was crazy when it hit, when you put his skull back on,
and then he becomes...
All the meat started bubbling up through his neck hole.
And his crazy teeth.
Christopher Walken plays the Headless Horseman. Christopher Walken doesn't utter a single line of dialogue other than and
but
he
still is magnificent.
Great. He is fantastic. He's playing the intro story where Garrett, is it Garrett or Van Tassel?
Van Tassel.
Van Tassel is talking about the Hessian, a man who came to the Americas to fight in the Revolution, not for money, but because he loved violence and carnage.
Yeah.
And they just show Christopher Walken charging into a group of soldiers,
just
sword waving in the air, and just
sword and axe,
heads popping off like champagne corks.
And you were just laughing and laughing.
That is some good stuff. And Christopher Walken just...
There are a lot of actors in this.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, just as a set piece, or as a film, just really great casting in this. Again, another phenomenal actor who doesn't have a huge amount of screen time, but is always a treat to watch. The late, great Christopher Lee.
Michael Gambon.
Michael Gambon as Van Tassel. Another one who doesn't really have, not that he doesn't have a lot, but there's a lot of people in this, so you kind of have to go through a lot of story. Obviously the main characters are Ichabod and Katrina, but nobody feels wasted. None of the story feels rushed. Everything plays out how it should.
Yeah, the mystery makes sense.
Yes.
And there's not really a lot of times with something like this, sometimes you have to take this leap. The bad guy's plan is just that really wouldn't work if this didn't happen.
Right.
Basic, simple thing. But it makes sense, and you could see why all these people were freaked out. They knew what was going on. They didn't really want to let on what was going on. And yeah, it worked. Everything really worked.
It worked, yeah. This is one of those pieces where it really comes together. I like Tim Burton a lot. Some of his filmography isn't as great, this is definitely in the higher scale of things that he's done.
I'm kind of mixed on Tim Burton.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just
very
like,
hit or miss with Tim Burton.
It's just like, come on, give it a rest already. You're getting a little crazy.
But I think one of the things that's interesting about Tim Burton is that 9 times out of 10, you know what a Tim Burton movie looks like. He definitely has this stamp on his work that when you see something, it's sort of like, I know people kind of mock Wes Anderson, but there's something about how a shot is framed by certain directors that you could look at it and say, oh, this is so-and-so. And I think as far as shots and setup and the look of a movie, I think sometimes it's really easy to identify a Tim Burton piece. This is not in the vein of like Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which is loud and big and very colorful. The palette here is very muted. It feels like fall. You're very immersed in this world. You feel like you're in the Hudson Valley.
Mm-hmm. It felt like winter to me.
It did. And at the end, he's saying we're starting a new century, right? Yeah. We're coming into the 19th century. So that was kind of cool too. And just the set pieces. I mean, they've constructed this world that just is glorious. And this is, I mean, there's not a lot of CG in this movie, if any. Is there?
I would probably say the CG is probably more dedicated to backgrounds and probably some of the work on the horseman when he's like going in and out of the tree.
Right. But for the most part, this is more practical stuff. And it's one of my biggest likes, I guess, that there are movies that employ both. I mean, I think we are at a time in movie history where the FX has gotten better, but at the same time, it is nice to see when special care is given in the practical effects.
Yeah.
Because I think that really makes a movie, because it's just not an actor speaking into the void. It is an actor within this world that's been created. Yeah,
or even just the being able to interact with objects and stuff, like all the beheadings.
Yes.
They were all practical.
Absolutely.
And the little spins that the heads did and bouncing down the hill and stuff.
All of that was intentional.
All of that was intentional, and it looked great, and people like holding the heads and being like, oh, or the horseman just holding them, and the horseman really well done. I mean, he was
absolutely.
They could have just had some guy swinging a sword, but this guy looked like he knew what he was doing.
Yes,
and he's like pulling maneuvers. The fight scenes were good. There was like a sort of an extended fight scene between him and Brom Bones, Catherine Van Dien. Yeah. It was just really well done, choreographed.
Everything, top to bottom. This is definitely a solid piece.
Yeah.
From all aspects, from story to costume to cinematography to lighting to art direction. Everything about this film is just top notch. There's really nothing to pick apart here. I mean, do yourself a favor. If you haven't seen this, I highly recommend it. If you have seen it, watch it again. It's definitely a fun
and it's good treat. For the season.
And it's great for the season.
This is a Halloween movie.
Absolutely. This is something that you can watch with your kids. What do you say, 10 and up, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, Olive is 8, and she had no problems with
it. Yeah,
I mean, there were a couple of moments where she held the blanket up over her face, but it was really it was anticipation of something rather than something that she was just like, oh God, I can't handle this.
Right.
Not like Drag Me to Hell.
Not like Drag
Me to Hell. Okay, Olive G, scale of 1 to 10, what would you give this movie?
I would give it a 7.
A 7?
Ooh, good one.
Gigi.
I give this movie an 8.
An 8. I, too, would give this maybe an 8.5, actually. I'd give it an 8.5.
I'd give it an 8.5 as well. Yeah. I really like this.
Yeah, I think this is what...
8.5.
Even as a kid, I always loved the Headless Horseman. When I was a little kid and I was drawing pictures, he was the guy I was always drawing. Just because I love jack-o'-lanterns. I loved... for some reason, I was always drawing people getting their heads chopped off.
You always like to draw people.
I can't believe that's something you've admitted out loud. But
drawing, I wouldn't actually do it in real
yes,
life,
no, of course. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this, and it still holds up. This is a movie from 1999.
It looks great.
It looks fantastic.
For a film from 1999, it looks great. The effects look great. The shots
still
look great.
Holds up.
Cinematography, costume, acting, story, solid movie.
Solid.
And I could see it. I could see it being solid for years and years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love. You know, it's funny in this time of COVID. I would love for them to re-release it. I think this is one of those movies that would benefit from like a widescreen release.
I don't know if the studios would be interested in that because I don't think this did well when it came out.
Really? Is that right?
I don't think it was considered a hit movie, and I think
so
that's
funny.
I think that's a shame.
Yeah, it's so good.
It was great.
Yeah,
it was really great. It was a lot of fun, and
yeah, this is really good storytelling.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, this is foggy memories here, but I think that it did not perform as well as they had hoped.
Too bad. It's a good movie.
It didn't actually. The budget on this was $100 million estimate. Mm-hmm. Opening weekend U.S. $30,060,467.
What was its total take?
Total gross U.S. take was $101 million.
So they didn't even make that good advertising.
Yeah, wow. Cumulative worldwide gross, though, is $206,071,502.
Well, that's before that really mattered,
right?
According to Hollywood. Back then, Hollywood didn't give a crap about worldwide grosses. It was just like, what are you making here?
Here, sure.
And now it's like, well, the worldwide is a huge thing now.
Right. But I feel like this is, I mean, hopefully it gets a lot of love.
I think it's gotten a lot of love since, like, on
I still don't feel like it's one of those Halloween classics, though. It's funny because
you don't see it put on TV.
You don't. I mean, I see.
I saw it on TV once.
Yeah, I feel like it's never around this time. I mean, this is like such a fall kind of story.
Yeah, I don't get it. It should be shown more during this season.
Absolutely.
And I don't see.
Strange.
And maybe I don't know. Maybe the television networks have problems with people's heads popping off.
Maybe, I don't know. But it's funny because when you look at lists about like best like great movies to sit with kids during Halloween, this one doesn't really come up a lot. And the stuff that does, I don't know, I feel like my kids would be completely bored about it. Like, I know Hocus Pocus gets a lot of love. I don't understand it, but whatever. Don't explain it to me, please. It's fine.
That movie was pretty.
You know what?
Yeah.
We were saying that it's not that gory. There is one scene that is a bit gory. The scene where Michael Gambon dies.
Kinda, yeah.
That I could see maybe turning some people off.
Right. Okay.
You
know what? That's fair.
Remember when they're inside the church and the Headless Horseman takes the picket from the fence and he uses it like a spear and it comes out of Michael Gambon's chest because it goes into his back.
You could just said Katrina's dad.
Katrina's father, yes.
I forgot.
And he gets impaled, and then he the Headless Horseman sort of uses it as a harpoon to pull him out of the church because the Headless Horseman can't go inside the church.
Right.
Yeah.
And there was some blood spray in that one.
You know what's funny? When we were watching it, the one scene that always affected me from the first time I've seen this movie,
when those 3 people died.
Yes. That is the scene that always upsets me. And it's funny because you don't see anything. Well, you see the horseman with the midwife and the husband's heads.
Yeah.
And then what's implied what happens to the child. And that's the part that always gets, and even more now that I'm a parent, obviously, but in 99, it was still very jarring because you think he's leaving and all of a sudden he stops and he comes back.
He comes back with a kid. Yeah, you know what? Maybe those are the reasons that it possibly turns people off.
That's, you know what, that would make sense because even watching it now, again, you don't really see much, but it's implied. The violence of the scene is implied.
And like when he's coming out, he's stuffing something into the bag.
Right.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Gracie.
When I saw that scene, like when he's in the doorway and the lightning strikes, I always thought that was because he hadn't finished.
It could be like
he go back inside.
Something inherently told the Hessian to go back.
Yeah.
He obviously knew that he wasn't done there. But why take the child? Like, I mean, Lady Van Tassel's thing was that the midwife was the one that opened her mouth. So, and she said she opened her mouth in front of the husband. So that's why those two had to die. But why did the child have to die?
Because the kid's there too.
Yeah,
you got Lady Van Tassel was she seemed
very
all
thorough.
about loose ends.
Right.
Gotta snip those loose ends.
Yes. Hardcore Miranda Richardson.
Yeah. It was also great. I love Miranda Richardson.
Yeah, she's fantastic. But the other thing was that scene at the bridge, at the covered bridge with Bronn and Ichabod, where Ichabod tells him he's not here for us. He's not here for us.
But that guy still goes after him because he's a stupid moron.
Well, I think he wanted to be the hero, right?
Bronn wanted to be the hero.
Bronn really wanted to be the hero here.
Plus, I mean, there was this. He just murdered a man, a woman, and their child, plus all those other people.
Right.
So, I mean, Bronn was technically doing the right thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to stop this monster.
You can't really beat someone who's already dead.
You can't beat someone who's already dead.
No, you can't.
And you could probably say Brom's death was kind of gory, even though it was all sort of in silhouette.
Yes, that's true too. So maybe we've answered our own question here as to why this didn't
That's why we analyze films.
But it's unfortunate because it's still, as a storytelling piece, amazing. Even 20 years later.
20 years.
God, can you believe it?
Shut up! Just came out. Stop it. I'm not that old.
But it does make you feel old, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
So old.
Oh, well. Okay, so that's it from us, and we will be back with another review soon. Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Night.